Hello, good morning. Can you hear me? If you can see my screen and you can hear my voice clearly, kindly type in hi in the comment section so that we can get the session started. So let me see some comment, please. If you can see my screen and you can hear my voice clearly, kindly type in hi in the comment section, please. So let's confirm we're all on the same page. So I'm trying to load up my chat to see if there are, I think I'm having some little itch here. All right. Okay. Thank you, Carrie. I can see you. Good morning to you. Thank you for that confirmation. So I can see 694 in the house. Good morning. Well, we have Guti Tabo. We have Danny 1128, Andre 20. We have Pietro. All right. Okay. Thank you for that confirmation. Good evening to everyone in the house. And I think with this, I want to see this as a confirmation that we are good to go. All right. So I'm excited to welcome you to another promising session on the Extreme Speed Live Hub. My name is Sheriff Daramola. I will be your host in the next 1 hour as we embark on a trading journey where we shall be evaluating the financial market using technical parameters to identify trading opportunities lining up for us during the New York session today. Well, as usual, we are going to be reviewing all the pairs we deliberated on yesterday. We are going to be seeing how well the pairs are doing, after which we are going to be making a decision on what next will be our line of action. Are we going to be opting out of the trade? Are there other options we want to be taking advantage of? Or are we going to be pausing at this point in time? These are one of the few things we are going to be deliberating on today. So my advice is that you try as much as possible to stay tuned in so that you don't miss out on any of this important information I will be dishing out during the course of the session. And if you have any pair you want us to look at, be it commodity, crypto, options, whatever it is, feel free to drop it in the comment section and let's see how we can incorporate it into our plans for today. So without further ado, let's dive into the chart and let's see what is going on in the market right now. So the first pair we are going to be looking at today is obviously going to be the USOil as usual. And remember, yesterday we were around this area yesterday where we took advantage of a bullish momentum after price broke out of the $90.80 level here. We saw a situation where I told you I took advantage of this move right at this level, and I said for those who are not in this trade, let's see if the market is going to be giving us a second chance. And in fact, we had a retest of the structure. Price came back into the $90-$80 level, and if you are not in the trade during the early hours of yesterday, well, the market gave us another opportunity to join the rally to the upside. And one thing I said is that as soon as price breaks out of the $92 area, we want to be looking out for a retest of that structure to incite a further trend continuation to the upside. But lo and behold, that is not what happened, as price moved against us and came back into our entry zone, and obviously we would have moved our stop loss accordingly to protect our position, as we were stopped out in a little profit yesterday. And we saw how price broke down the $90 area. So during the early hours of today, we saw a breakdown of the structure. Price retested the $90 area, and since then we have been witnessing selling pressure right below the $90 area, $90.80 area, and we can see price continue to the downside in such a way that we witnessed a significant breakdown of that bullish trend line to incite a possible bearish momentum at this point in time. So for those who took advantage of this move at this area, the first thing I'll be saying right now is let's lock in our profit, move our stop loss to break even at this point, so that when we witness any sudden pullback that is likely going to happen at this point, we want to at least not lose out on this position. So the first thing I'll be saying here, let's move our stop loss, lock in our profit at break-even level, and let's see if the selling momentum here will continue to the structure here will continue to support a bearish momentum to the downside. So in order to have an holistic view of what is really going on at this point, let's scale up to the daily time frame and let's see what's going on, and let's see if the structure on the daily time frame still supports us to continue with that bearish momentum. So right now we are moving on to the daily time frame of the USOil, and what do we have on the daily time frame? So let's reset the chart so that we can see things more clearly. And like I said yesterday, we were able to identify this bullish trend line after connecting the series of higher lows rather. And as you can see, since the beginning of last year, we saw how that level, that bullish trend line, has been holding buying pressure, hereby inciting a bullish momentum. However, when we zoom closer into the structure that we have here in the last 3 to 4 months now, another thing we were able to do was to identify that $86 area, which is a very important level that has been holding price action. It has been a major determinant of price action. And what we saw here, if you look at what happened here in the month of August, we saw how that level had been holding buying pressure at one point in time before we saw selling pressure around this area, which pushed price to break down that level. And throughout the course of the month of September, we saw that price continue to trade right below that level, not until the early days of the month of October that we witnessed the breakout of that structure, which also lines up with the breakout of the bearish trend line here. And when we see we had this bullish trend line at the beginning of, I think during the course of the month of October, we saw this bullish signal, and then we expect that price might likely come back to do a retest of structure, which is exactly what happened, followed by a consolidation phase here, leading out to the breakout of the $86 level, retest of structure, and boom, price has continued to climb to the high side. Now, we have been enjoying the bullish momentum on the US oil in the last 2 weeks, and our situation here, after looking at the structure we had yesterday, we want to be seeing what is really happening in this market at this point. Now, the first thing you will observe here is how important the $93.50 level has been in the last 3 to 4 weeks now. So the first time price came into this level, the first week of the month of October, we saw a significant selling pressure from that area, which pushed price to the downside from that level. Now, the same thing has happened. We saw this engulfing candle taking price right back into the $93.50 level, and we saw a sharp rejection of that structure during the course of the New York session yesterday. And one thing that tells us is that, will this level turn out to be a strong selling niche that will be pushing price to the downside? So that is one scenario we want to be looking at. Remember yesterday we said we really need to see what is going on around here to determine if we are going to be adding more position to our buy trade, as we are quite expecting that we might likely see a breakout of the $93.50 level, after which a retest of structure will be giving us further confirmation to join the rally to the upside. But as things are happening right now, it appears that this is not going to be the case, as we've been witnessing selling pressure right below the $93.50 level since the early hours of today, to possibly give us a signal that a bearish momentum might be coming in at this point. But how far will this bearish momentum go is what we don't know here. And if we look at the current structure and look at what happened here since the $82 area, we might be seeing this as an impulsive move to the upside, and we might likely see a situation where this bearish impulsive move we've been witnessing since the beginning of today might likely be a retracement of that impulsive move to the upside. So what we are going to be doing at this point is to identify where this impulse, project where this retracement phase might likely go. And the only way we can do that is to bring out our Fibonacci retracement tool, run it through the previous impulse leg, and we should be aiming at somewhere within the 50 and the 78.6% retracement of that previous impulse leg. So if we do that appropriately, what we should be having is somewhere, hold on a second, I'm trying to, okay, we should be having somewhere right within the $88 area and the $84.50 level as an area for our TP target. So let's label this out in a moment. So we have TP target at we'll label this area TP target, place it right inside this, okay, inside the center, and let's give this a yellow color. So this is what we're going to be having as projected TP target in the meantime, since we already joined a bearish momentum as at the beginning of this morning. So we're going to be looking at somewhere within the $87.50 area and the $84.50 area as our take profit target. So now, with the information we have here on the daily time frame, as we can see, selling pressures coming right below the $93.50 level. And let's see what is going on the 1 hour time frame, and let's see if we could actually if the market will probably give us another opportunity to add more position to this trade. And for those who missed out on that trade, let's see if the market is going to be giving us another chance to join that decline. So going back to the 1 hour time frame and scaling down to the 1 hour time frame, like I said earlier, sorry. So we have the situation here where we have been witnessing this bullish momentum since the mid-month of October. As you can see here, after connecting the series of higher lows here, we had the structure figured out. So we had this bullish trend line, which price has been respecting in the last 3 to 4 weeks now. Sorry, 3 to 4 weeks exactly. And are we going to be having a situation where price will come back into that structure, which is within the area we identified on the daily time frame, to incite the trend continuation to the upside? So these are the scenarios we are looking forward to at this point. So as we have joined this bearish momentum right below the $90.80 level, what we're going to be doing, like I said, the first thing we should be doing here is to lock in our position by moving our stop loss to break even at this point. So now if we look at what has been happening here since the beginning of the week, we saw our price was caught within a channel between the $90.30 level and the $90.80 area before the breakout retest of that structure happened to push price to the upside. So at this point in time, I would like to extend that support level of that channel to the future, and let's see if we are going to be having a further breakdown of that structure, retest of that structure to add more position to our trade. So on this 1 hour time frame, we have a couple of scenarios that we might likely be looking forward to at this point. And well, the first one is the breakdown of the bullish trend line, which also lines up with the breakdown of the $90.80 level. And from a technical standpoint like this, whenever we have a breakdown of a structure like this, we expect that price is likely going to come back, do a retest of that structure, look out for selling pressure on lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. So we have that scenario figured out. So there is a possibility that price might likely come back to do a retest of that trend line or the key level at $90.80 level. That is one scenario we might be looking forward to. Then the other scenario is a possible breakdown of the $90.30 level, so that if we see a significant breakdown of that structure, well, we want to be looking at a possible retest of the $90.30 level, followed by selling pressure on lower time frame to join that decline to the downside. And if the decline happens and price continue to move to the downside and we sight a breakdown of the $89 level again, we might be having another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade at a retest of that structure, pushing price right back into that bullish trend line that we identified earlier, which might likely incite this the second wave of that bullish momentum that started last week. So that is my scenario here for the US oil. So another thing I want to let you see here is this reversal pattern that that happened around the $92 area. So if we look at the current structure we have here, we can see that we've been witnessing selling pressure since the later part of last week, and following this impulsive move to the upside, we saw how that level continue to reject all buying attempts at this point. Though we had a little breakout of that structure here, but this was mitigated by the sellers as price push to the downside, breaking down that bullish trend line to incite a possible retracement of that impulse leg, which would likely incite a trend continuation to the upside. So let's see how far this retracement phase is going to go. So I've advised you, those who are joined here, move your stop loss accordingly to protect your position, and let's see how this plays out in the next couple of hours. So that is that on the US oil. If you have any questions, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section of this video. So let's see what is happening in the comment section. All right, so what we have here, I'm trying to load up my chart here. I'm not sure why. Let's see. So I'm not sure why I can't load up my chart, but it's okay while I try to figure that out. So I think we'll just move on to the next pair and let's see what we can do from there. Okay. All right, so the next pair we are going to be looking at is going to be the US tech. And on the US tech, what do we have here? So as at yesterday, what we were looking at on the US tech is a bullish momentum. And remember, we were around this point yesterday, right around the $10,850 area. Okay, I think we were around here yesterday, around the $10,930 level. And one thing I said here, I told you I already took advantage of a bullish momentum after citing the breakout of the $10,850 area on the lower time frame. And one thing I said that here is that there is a possibility that price might likely come back to do a retest of that structure, and if that happens, we want to be joining or adding more position to our existing trade. And what happened here during the later part of New York session yesterday was quite interesting, as we saw 1, 2, 3, 4 rejection of that level to give us an opportunity to join or add more position to this trade. And since then, price has continued to find higher highs and higher lows. And when I opened up my chart this morning, the first thing I observed was that we finally saw the breakout of the $10,930 level, which has been a selling niche for participants in this market at one point in time. If we go to as far back as the last week trading session, we saw that area too was a selling niche, and the same thing happened here as well. So I was thinking, okay, fine, if I have a breakout of that structure, I will be looking to take advantage of a retest of structure. So late last night we had a breakout of structure, so we were looking at price coming back to do a retest of this area to look for taking advantage of a trend continuation to the upside. And this is exactly what happened as we saw price come back into the structure. So we saw something like a reversal pattern on lower time frame, and boom, things continue to move to the upside. So at this point in time, we have a second position triggered. And one thing I should say here, for those who are taking advantage of the second opportunity and the one we took advantage of yesterday, kudos to you for being on standby to take advantage of such move. So the next thing we want to be doing here is to move our stop loss accordingly, and most appropriate place to place our stop loss is somewhere around the $10,930 level. So somewhere right below this level would be a good place to place our stop loss to protect our position against any sudden pullback at this point in time. So going into the New York session today, what is still our expectation? Is our expectations still bullish at this point, or are we going to be having a change of heart here? Well, let's scale up to the daily time frame. Let's have an holistic perspective of what is really going on here, and let's see what the current structure is saying, and if this current structure is lining up with our expectations on the higher time frame. So when we scale up to the daily time frame here, well, you can see what we have here. Though we had the bearish momentum since the beginning of the year, which was figured out with that bearish trend line, but the most important structure on this chart is the $11,000 area, which has been holding buying pressure since the month of June. So we saw how this level was tried as much as possible to limit all selling pressure as buyers took over the market from there. We also saw the same thing happen during the month of September, stroke the early days of the month of October, as we saw buying pressure coming out of that area. But something interesting happened during this phase. We saw how the $11,700 level has been holding all buying pressure from that demand zone. So every attempt by the buyers to push price right above the $11,700 level has been met with strong resistance from the sellers. In fact, this selling pressure here led to a situation where we now found a new demand zone at around the $10,600 area. As you can see, price came back into that demand zone again during the course of last week's trading session, and since the beginning of this week we have been witnessing buying pressure from that level. So what this simply tells us is that we'll still continue to look forward to buying opportunity at this point in the market. So as we can see, we saw buying pressure coming out from that demand zone again this week, and we had buying pressure on our lower time frame this week. So I'm of the opinion that we continue to look forward to buying opportunities from this area. But one thing I also want to state here, I want to make clear here, for those of us who are looking at this from a long-term perspective, this bearish trend line here, we had this bearish trend line figured out. Remember, during the course of last week's trading session, we saw this bearish trend line, which has been a major determinant of price action. And since the breakdown of this trend line here in the month of September, price has continued to trade right below that level. So we saw a little breakout of that structure. Price came back into that area. So right now we can see that price is heading towards that level. So one thing I'll be saying here is this: so as soon as price gets into that structure around this bearish trend line, what we want to be doing is to move our stop loss accordingly to protect our position, as we might be having a situation where price might retest this level, probably reject it, evolve into selling pressures on lower time frame to send price crashing to the downside. It is a possibility that could happen, and it might not happen as well. But one thing we want to be doing is to get ourselves prepared should it happen. Now, if price continues to the upside and breaks out of that trend line in such a way that we have an engulfing candle taking price right out of that structure during the course of the week, or probably during the course of the New York session today, we never can tell, well, we want to be seeing that as a bullish signal. Remember, at this point, we are not getting too excited, and we want to wait for further confirmation, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of that bearish trend line, after which we look out for buying pressure on lower time frame to add more position to our existing trade. So let's quickly scale down to the 1 hour time frame. Let's see what is going on here, and let's make a decision for the week. Let's make our trading for today very easy. So now scaling down to the 1 hour time frame, what do we observe here on the 1 hour time frame? So let's reset our chart and let's zoom into the current structure that we have here. So now, since the breakout of the $10,980 level, as you can see here, we saw that price came back to do a retest of that structure to incite a trend continuation to the upside. But one thing that we will observe here is somewhere around the 11,000 mark area here. During the early hours of today, it was a selling niche for participants in this market, and the same thing is happening right now. As you can see, this current candle is looking like as if it wants to reject that level one more time. So what I'll be doing here is to identify that structure, as this will make our trading very easy during the New York session today. So I will be identifying that structure. So what we'll be doing here is to connect this. Okay, so we should be labeling it for the sake of clarity, so that we can have a visual understanding of what we are looking out for here. So we have the $11,000 level. which is more or less a strong psychological level at this point, considering the round figure of that price. So we have an 11,000 mark here. So going into the New York session today, what is it that's going to give us further confirmation to add more position to our existing trade here? So I will be suggesting that we wait for an engulfing candle to take us right out of the 11,000 mark in such a way that it takes out all the sell position around this area. All those who are thinking to sell the US tech here, take out that position. Then remember, we are not getting too excited at that point. All we need to do is to remain patient when we sight a breakout of that structure. And remember, the breakout of that structure also lines up with the trend line we identified on the daily time frame here. So if we have a breakout of that structure, we want to be very patient, because this breakout could actually turn out to be a false breakout. So we want to wait for further confirmation, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of that $11,000 mark, after which we look out for buying pressure on lower time frame to give us further confirmation to join the rally to the upside. So if we have this kind of situation, and for those who are already in this trade, who already have two positions or a position already in this trade, well, this is another opportunity. If a breakout retest of the $11,000 level happens, this is another opportunity for us to add more position to this trade. And for those who are not in this trade yet, well, the market might be presenting to us another chance to join this rally if the breakout retest of that level happens. And if a breakout retest of that level happens and price continue to trade right above that trend line, then we want to be very, very comfortable in our buy position. So let's see how price action plays out. Let's see how price reacts to the $11,000 mark in the next couple of hours to make a further decision on the US tech. However, if this level, hold on a second, let me delete this so that we can have a clean chart here. So however, if this level turns out to be a selling niche for participants in this market, that is, price was unable to give us a significant breakout of the $11,000 level, well, this might likely be a situation that might evolve into a reversal pattern. So we had this impulsive move since last week, which took us right into the $11,000 level. We saw price reject the $10,930 mark, came back into the structure, and if we continue to see selling pressure around this area in such a way that price drops further to the downside, well, the $10,930 level will now become the new neckline of that reversal pattern. So what we are going to be looking forward to is a breakdown of the 10,930. That is, price takes us out of our buy position, breaks down the $10,930 level, does a retest of the neckline area, or look out for selling pressure around this area. Then we want to be joining the trend continuation to the downside. So this is how we intend to trade the US tech. So most importantly, at this point in time, we are looking forward to bullish momentum. However, if price continue to reject the $11,000 area, whereby we start seeing selling pressure right below that level, then we want to be assuming that we might be having a reversal pattern at that point, which might likely tend towards the prior leading price action. Remember, we are on a long-term bearish momentum on this chart, and anytime from now, we might be seeing any selling pressure here. So the bullish momentum we're actually taking advantage of since the beginning of the week is more or less a retracement of that previous impulse leg. So let's guide our position judiciously, continue to move your stop loss accordingly as price action continue to move in our favor. So that is that on the US tech. I'm still unable to load up my chart. Let me see again if this is going to work out. Let's see if there are any questions regarding what I've just discussed before we move on to the next pair. So I want to look at the chart if it's going to load up this time. All right, still loading up. So I really wish to see what's going on in the chat. Okay, all right, so we have okay, my charts finally load up. So we have 3801. Good morning. Okay, all right, thank you for that response, Sebat 40. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Okay, 801 says introduction. I think I did an introduction at the beginning of the session. You probably missed the beginning of the session. So we normally start these 10 a.m. UTC on a daily basis to get ourselves prepared for the New York session. All right, so in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that this was quite explanatory, and then we just move on to the next pair. So the next pair we are going to be treating is going to be the Euro USD. Now, on the Euro USD, as at yesterday, remember we were expecting two scenarios to happen yesterday. Hold on a second. So we were, where are we as at yesterday? Let me clean this chart up a little bit so that we can have a better clean chart. All right, so we were around here yesterday, around the 0.99840 level, where I said when we started citing the multiple rejection of the $1 mark, we actually had two scenarios anyways. The first scenario is price has been consolidating within this channel. So we saw the breakout of this channel at the beginning of the week. Price came into the $1 mark, and we started seeing the selling pressure around this area. So we said, okay, fine, if the selling pressure continued to move on during the session, well, we want to be looking at a signal that will allow us to take advantage of a trend of a reversal pattern, and we were able to identify the 0.99840 level on the 15-minute time frame, which I said that we should wait for a signal to happen in the form of a breakdown of that structure. So if a breakdown of that structure happens, we want to wait for price to give us further confirmation in the form of a retest of that level before we want to be joining the decline to the downside, which never happened, and price did not break down that structure. Instead, price broke out of the $1 mark. So we saw the breakout of the $1 area. In fact, I saw a rejection here on lower time frame, and we joined the rally to the upside, but unfortunately we saw selling pressures right around the $1 1.002500 level in the early hours of today. When we took this position yesterday, we would have moved our stop loss to break even, and what happened afterwards, we saw price climb right back and broke down the $1 mark, taking us out of the buy position. So at this point right now, we can see prices right back below the $1 area. So one thing I stated here, I shared this on my TradingView platform. I said if a breakdown retest of the $1 level happens at this point, we want to be joining the decline with our take profit target still around the 0.9888600 level and the 0.9800 area. So at this point in time, we had the breakdown of the $1 mark, we had the breakdown, we had the retest of structure, and I'm already in this trade anyway, so I don't know if this trade is going to continue to the downside as expected. For those who took advantage of this, well, let's see how this runs out, if price will continue to trade right below the $1 area. And one thing we should also note here is how important that $1 area has been in the last 3 to 4 months. Now, if we scale up to the daily time frame to have an holistic view of what is really going on in this market and zoom into what has been happening in the last 3 months, let's zoom in. We can see, let me use the, hold on a second, hold on a second, I'll rather use my second chart here. Okay, all right, so we have the 1 hour time frame here, sorry, the daily time frame rather, and in the last 3 to 4 months here, we can see how important the $1 mark has been. And look at what happened here in the month of July. That level served as a buying niche for participants in this market. That's in the month of July. And if we fast forward into the month of September, we saw buying pressure around this area too as well, though the pressure wasn't that strong enough as sellers were able to break down that structure to push price to the downside of that area. And since then, price has been trading right below the $1 mark. So what this simply tells us is that the sellers are very strong around the $1 area. So we saw a breakout 2 weeks ago, and immediately it was met with selling pressure around that area, and right now we are around the $1 area. So there are two scenarios we want to be looking forward to here. The first one is is a situation where price might continue to fight selling pressure right below this level to incite a trend continuation to the downside. And considering the long-term bearish momentum here on the EURUSD, this is more likely to happen at this point in time. However, if a breakout of the $1 area happens, we saw a breakout of that structure, we are not getting too excited, as we want to wait for price action to give us further confirmation in the form of a retest of that structure. So it could come in the form of a retest of the $1 MAC or the retest of that bullish trend line here, after which we look out for buying pressure on lower time frame to join the rally to the upside. So on the EURUSD, we need to be very, very careful taking advantage of any bullish momentum at this point, because we really need to see a significant breakout of the structure to be very convincing to join that rally. But to take a sell position here is still easier to take because of the fact that this area has been a selling pressure in the last two months on this pair. So for the bullish momentum at this point, let's wait and see price break out of the structure, give us a significant breakout of that structure like an engulfing candle. Then we look out for buying pressure on lower time frame to join the rally to the upside. So now that's the two scenarios we are looking forward to. So let's see what we're going to be doing during the New York session today on our lower time frame. Now, going back to the 1 hour time frame here, I told you I already sold this position right below the $1 area. So I want to be patient enough to see how this is going to go. So for now, I will be advising that somewhere right below the $1 area still looks promising to sell the EURUSD. So as long as price continues to oscillate right below that level, selling momentum is very sensible at that point. And if price continues to the downside in such a way that we find a breakdown of the 0.99450 level, well, an addition to the existing position will be welcomed when price comes back to do a retest of that structure. We might be followed with selling pressure on lower time frame. Then we could add more position to the downside. So our take profit target still remains right around the 0.98600 level and the 0.9800 area for the selling opportunity that we are hoping is going to price action is going to evolve to in the next couple of hours. So that is that on the EURUSD. So if you have any question whatsoever, feel free to let me know in the comment section, and let's see how I can be of help in that regard. So I'll be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to read through the chat and see if there are any question whatsoever before we move on to the next pair. All right. Okay. All right. So what do we have here? Okay. All right. So I guess in the absence of no questions, we'll just have to move on to the next pair. So the next pair we are going to be looking at is the GBPUSD. And what is the situation we are finding ourselves on the GBPUSD right now? Well, hold on a second. Let me clean this so that we can have a clean chart. I actually uploaded this on my channel this morning. And so where are we as at yesterday? Where were we as at yesterday? Okay, we were around the 1.14390 level. So this is where we were yesterday. And how did the price start this week? Price started the week at around the 1.1320 levels. So we saw an engulfing bearish candle. So the price started the week on a bearish tone, and we saw this engulfing candle taking price right down into the 1.1300 level, where we saw buying pressure around that area, which also lines up with the bullish trend line that we have here. And what we saw after was quite interesting, as we saw this engulfing candle taking us right into the 1.14750. And since price tested the 1.14750 during the course of the New York session yesterday, we saw a little consolidation phase around this area. And well, when we cited this, we had a channel right within the 1.14390 and the 1.14750 area. And if we have a channel like this, it informs us of the indecision in this market. So the only way we could trade this is to join either a breakdown or a breakout of that structure, and a breakout was exactly what happened during the New York session yesterday. And I actually joined this, and price came to as far as the 1.15400 level before we started seeing selling pressure from that area, evolving into a double top structure, which is more or less like a reversal pattern at this point, and price continued to move to the downside, taking me out of my position at break even. So right now price is right back at the 1.147500 level, as this is where we are right now. So what we are going to be looking at today is to see if we are still going to be joining the trend continuation to the upside, or are we going to be having a situation where price will continue to drop further to the downside. Now, before I go into the details of what our expectation is today, let's take a quick look at what is happening on the higher time frame, especially for those who are not part of this session yesterday, so that they can actually have a view into what we've been thinking, what was our thought process on the GBPUSD at the beginning of the week. Now, look at what is happening here on the daily time frame. The first thing you will observe on the daily time frame is that price action has been on a bearish momentum since the beginning of the year, and as a result of this, we were able to connect the series of lower highs here to give us that resultant bearish trend line that we have here on your screen. And you can see how interesting price that trend line has continued to guide bearish momentum since the beginning of the year. Now look at what happened here a couple of weeks ago. We saw as soon as price came back into that bearish trend line, we saw selling pressures which pushed price to break down that very important 1.1400 level, and right now price is back within that trend line again, lining up exactly with the 1.1400 level. Now, from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakdown of a structure like this, we expect that price is likely going to come back to do a retest of that structure. So we had a breakdown during the later part of last week, and since the beginning of the week we've been witnessing bullish momentum here, which from my opinion is that price might be doing a retracement back to do a retest of structure, after which we look out for selling pressure on lower time frame to join the trend continuation to the downside. So why have I said the 1.1400 level is a very important structure? Well, if we go to as far back as the month of September, we can see how that level has been a major determinant of price action. Now look at what happened here in the month of September. We saw buying pressure around this area before we witnessed that sudden breakdown of that structure during the later part of the month of September, and this took price as far as the 1.10400 level. So we saw that, and from a technical standpoint, when we have a breakout of a structure, we expect that price will come back to do a retest of that level. So what happened here was quite interesting. So since the month of September, we saw that the 1.14 area has been holding selling pressure for participants in this market, making that area a strong selling niche in this market. Though we had a breakout of the structure a couple of weeks ago, but immediately price tested that bearish trend line. It led further into the breakdown of that level one more time, and price is right back within that structure here. So going into the New York session today, the two scenarios we want to be looking at is one, look out for selling pressure on lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. That is one scenario we want to be looking at for today. And if at any point in time we witness an engulfing candle taking us out of that bearish trend line, then we want to be seeing this move as a bullish signal. And if we see this bullish signal, remember, we are not getting too excited. After the bullish engulfing candle takes us out of that structure, we want to be patient enough to wait for structures on lower time frame that will be supporting a trend continuation to the upside. And if we look at what has been happening here in the last 1 month, we can see that price has continued to find higher lows, and as a result of this, we had this bullish trend line figured out here. So we saw our price has been respecting that bullish trend line, and then we had the breakdown of that trend line here. So is this going to be a false breakdown? We will only know if this is a false breakdown when we witness a breakout of that bearish trend line to give us a signal that the buyers are actually strong in this market. So we wait for a retest of structure, then we join the rally to the upside. But at this point in time, we'll continue this as a valid breakdown at this point, as long as price is still trading right below that bearish trend line. So we're going to be considering this as a valid breakdown. So what we are going to be doing now is to scale down to the lower time frame, and let's see if we can find selling pressure or reversal pattern on our lower time frame. Then we could be planning to join the decline to the downside. So let's scale down to the 1 hour time frame to see what is happening around that area. So if we scale down to the 1 hour time frame, what do we have here? So now on the 1 hour time frame, so on the 1 hour time frame, what we observed here during the New York session yesterday was quite interesting. Though we've been witnessing bullish momentum since the beginning of the week. In fact, during the later part of last week, we've been witnessing this bullish momentum, and as a result of that, we had this bullish trend line figured out here. So we saw how that bullish trend has been holding price action. So are we going to be having a situation where price will come back into this bullish trend line to incite another wave of a bullish momentum, or are we going to be having a breakdown of that trend line to incite a trend continuation to the downside? So things are becoming very clear right here on the 1 hour time frame. Now look at what happened around the 1.15400 level. Allow me to label this so that we can have a visual understanding of what we are talking about here. So we have the 1.15400 level figured out there. Okay, let me place it on the right hand side of the screen. Okay, so we saw selling pressure right around that area during the later part of the New York session yesterday to give us a clue of sellers taking over that bullish momentum, and this might likely be quick profit taking for those who took advantage of this move right from this area. So for those who took advantage of this move here, they might be doing some profit taking, which will reflect on the chart as a retracement move. So how far will this retracement move go is what we don't know, and because of the selling pressure that we've identified here, one thing I'll say is that the breakdown of the 1.14750 retest of that level could signal an opportunity to join the decline. So I actually placed a sell stop here right below the 1.14750 level, looking out for selling opportunity to take advantage of that trend continuation to the downside. Now we cannot ignore the fact that we are on the bullish momentum here, and there is a likelihood that price might come back into this bullish trend line to respect it one more time, then push price further to the upside. So in as much as I'm selling right below this level, I will continue to move my stop loss accordingly when price continue to move in my direction. So if price continue to move in my favor, I will continue to move my stop loss to protect my position against any sudden pullback around here. And if at any point in time price continue in such a way that we see a breakdown of this bullish trend line, then that is a further signal that this trend line is no longer holding buying pressure. So if that happens, I want to remain patient and wait for price action to give me further confirmation in the form of a retest of either this trend line or the structure here, to look out for selling pressure on lower time frame to join that, to add more position to my existing trade. So I continue to look out for selling opportunities here, and at this point in time I think my sell position will have been triggered right now, considering what is happening right now right below the 1.14750 area. So if you want to join me right now, it's a good time to do so, and let's see how this is going to take us. So if price continue to trade and break down that bullish trend line, we want to be very confident, we want to be very comfortable in our sell position. As soon as price break down that bullish trend line, we are going to be very comfortable in the sell position as we wait for a retest to structure to give us further confirmation to join the decline. And if price continue to go to the downside in such a way that we have another breakdown of this very important 1.1400 level, which I showed you on the daily time frame, remember, where we've been seeing selling pressure in the last 2 to 3 months now. Well, if a breakdown of that level happens, that's another sign that sellers have come back to stay. So if a retest of structure happens, we want to add more position to our existing trade. So this is what I'm looking forward to on the GBPUSD. And for those who are asking, how are we going to buy this? Well, I will only buy this when I see price. If price come back into this bullish trend line here, somewhere around the 1.14390 level, which has been the resistance point in the last 24 hours. It has been a support level in the last 24 hours. So if price comes within that level and I start seeing buying pressure around this area, and as you can see, it also lines up with that bullish trend line, and then a breakout of that structure happens, retest of structure, then I want to be joining that bullish momentum. And if a breakout of the 1.15400 level happens, that is, price breaks out of that structure, taking out all the sell position here, then a retest of that structure will be giving us a leverage to add more position to that buy trade. So that is what we are going to be looking forward to, and that will only happen if price comes to retest the 1.14390, which also lines up with that bullish trend line. So let's see how this goes in the next 24 hours. And obviously, we are going to be coming back here tomorrow to do a review and see how well this pair has done. So now the next pair we are going to be doing, I'm already out of time here, so I just have to quickly run through this so that okay, so we have XAUUSD to figure out. I think that's the last pair we're going to be treating for today. So for those who are in the XAUUSD, we are in a sell position already, running in profit at this point in time. And if you are taking advantage of this move, kindly move your stop loss to lock in some profit at this point in time. So that's the next thing we want to be doing here, locking your profit at this point in time, and let's see how we can if the market is going to present us another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. So what did we say here yesterday? I said as long as price continue to retest the $1,680 level, that is, if we continue to see selling pressure right below that level, then we want to be seeing this as a sign that sellers are still very strong in this market. Now, we all know how important this key level is, that is the $1,680 level. Let me quickly show you how that level is important, especially for those who are not part of the session yesterday. So let's scale up to the daily time frame and let's see how important that $1,680 level is. Now look at the daily time frame here. We have a bearish momentum and we have a bearish trend line already after connecting the series of lower highs here, and what we can see here is that price has been on a bearish momentum, emphasizing the strength of the sellers at this point in the market. However, the $1,625 level has been holding buying pressure, as every attempt by the sellers to push price below the $1,625 level has been met with strong resistance from the buyers. The same thing happened in the month of October, and the same thing also happened during the later part of last week's trading session, as we saw this engulfing candle taking us out of that structure, breaking out of that bearish trend line to signify that buyers are trying as much as possible to take over this market. Now, the $1,680 level, which I showed you on the 1 hour time frame, is here, and if you look at what has been happening since the month of July, you can see how this level has been a major determinant of price action. Now look at what happened here in the month of July. We saw how buyers came here to push price to the upside. The same thing happened in the month of September, though the buying pressure here wasn't that strong enough, as sellers immediately took over the market, breaking down the $1,680 level, retested it one more time, and throughout the month of September, price has been trading right below that level. In fact, till this moment, price has been trading right below the $1,680 level, emphasizing the strength of the sellers at this point. Though we had a little breakout of the structure here, but as soon as price came back into that bearish trend line, we can see how the selling pressure took over the market. So in the last 2 months now, we can see how the $1,680 level has been holding selling pressure at this point. So despite the fact that we saw an engulfing candle breaking out of that bearish trend line during the course of last week's trading session, I am of the opinion that we need to be very patient to see how price action will relate to the $1,680 level before we want to be making a decision on this one. So the two scenarios we want to be looking at to see how price relates with the $1,680 level is: one, finding selling pressure right below the $1,680 level should incites a bearish momentum, and if a breakout of the $1,680 level happens, that's a confirmation that the bullish move that started last week has come to stay. Then the retest of structure could be the retest of the $1,680 level to push price to the upside, or the retest of the bearish trend line to push price to the upside. So these are the things we are going to be looking forward to on the XAUUSD. So if not for the fact that we had this $1,680 level, we would have concluded that this bullish engulfing candle is a sign that a reversal pattern has come to stay to push price to the upside. But because of the $1,680 level at this point in the market, we want to be very cautious and see how price action relates to that level before we make a decision. So let's scale down to the 1 hour time frame. Let's see what is really happening around here. Is this structure here going to turn out to be a trend continuation pattern that will push price to the upside, break out of that structure, or is it going to turn out to be a reversal pattern that will send price crashing to the downside? So in order to get a better perspective into this, we'll scale down to the 1 hour time frame and let's take a look at what is happening around that area. So as at yesterday, we took advantage of the breakdown retest of the $1,675 level. So we had a structure here. Initially we had a channel as price. Since the beginning of the week, price has been trading right around the $1,660 level and the $1,680 area, giving us a clue that there is an indecision in this market right now. As you can see, price is caught within a consolidation phase here, and in the last 6, 7, 8, 10 hours now, price has been trending towards the downside. And why did I say so? So on the daily time, on the 1 hour time frame here, remember we had this bullish trend line connecting this point. We saw how this level has been a major determinant of price action. So we saw this, though we had a little breakdown retest of the structure here, but immediately price climbed up during the later part of last week, and since then price retested that structure one more time during the course of this week, and then we saw the breakdown of that trend line here, emphasizing that the sellers might be coming in here. And one thing that we saw here is that when price tested the $1,680 level here, the next touch of that level was a lower high, as price was unable to break the previous high here, and that's from a technical standpoint, that is a sign that the sellers are still coming in this market. So those who took advantage of this move right around this area, kudos to you. I'll be advising you to move your stop loss accordingly, protect your position, and let's see if the market is going to be giving us a second chance to add more position to this trade. So right now we have a structure right around the $1,672 level. Let me show you. Let me bring out my line chart here and let's connect that point. So we have the 1,672 area somewhere around here. $1,672. So that is that here, and let's bring back our candle chart. Now we have the situation where price has broken down the structure, and what we have been witnessing here in the last 6 hours is multiple rejection of the $1,672 level. So what it simply says is that selling pressure is coming in right around that area, but we still need further confirmation to add more position to this trade because of the support level here at the $1,668 level, which has been holding buying pressure since the later part of last week's trading session. So what I'll be advising us to do here, especially for those who missed out on this opportunity here, is to wait and let's see a breakdown of the $1,668 level. So that will be giving us a bearish signal. And remember, we are not getting too excited when we cite this breakdown of a structure. We want to remain patient and wait for price action to give us further confirmation in the form of a retest of either the $1,668 level or probably the 1,670 area. But the most important thing we want to be looking out for at the retest of structure is selling pressure on lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. So this is what I'll be looking forward to on the XAUUSD. So I'm still looking at selling the XAUUSD at this point in time. And the only reason I will be buying the XAUUSD at this point is when I cite a breakout of the $1,680 area. So I told you how that level has been a strong selling niche in the last 2 to 3 months now. So we want to see a breakout of that structure where price takes out all the sell positions here to give us a confirmation that this is a bullish signal. And when that happens, we wait for a retest of structure to give us the leverage to join the rally to the upside. So this is what we are looking forward to on the XAUUSD, and I think on this note I will be calling it a day. But before I do, let's do a quick recap of what our expectations are. I'll do a recap on all the pairs we talked about so far, for those who had missed out from the early session, so that they can have a purview of what we are looking at for today. So on the US oil, remember I shared with you how we took advantage of this bullish momentum yesterday. After we saw the breakout retest of the structure, we took this move, price broke out the $92 level, and since then we've been seeing selling pressure around that area, though we moved our stop loss accordingly to protect our position. So we were not caught out in a loss position here. Some will have made some profits here, and some will have broken even here. So we are not in a loss at all on the US oil. Now, the current situation after price continues to drop further to the downside was quite interesting, as we saw the breakdown of the $90.80 level, which served as a resistance point of the channel we identified earlier. Remember, price was caught within this channel at the beginning of the week between the $90.80 level and the $90.30 area, and we saw price break down that level, retest that structure, lines up with the bullish trend line, and lo and behold, we saw the breakdown of that bullish trend line to give us a signal that we might be having a sell momentum, which at this point in time I will be seeing as a retracement of that impulsive move that started last week. So this is the impulse leg here. So we want to see the retracement go into somewhere within our golden zone area, where we want to be looking at buying the US oil. So project the take profit target for our sell position. If we bring out our Fibonacci retracement tool, run it through the previous impulse leg here, and we should be aiming at somewhere within the 50 and the 78.6% of the previous impulse leg. So this is what we are going to be having as our take profit target area for the sell opportunity, and this is also going to be serving as our buy zone when price comes within this level. So let me delete the retracement tool here. So this is what we are looking at. So we have our take profit target right around the $89 area and the $87 area. So if price comes within this level and we start seeing buying pressure around this area, like a double bottom structure or a head and shoulder pattern, then we want to be getting ready to join the second wave of the bullish momentum that started last week. So that is how we are trading the US oil. So for those who are in this trade already, move your stop loss accordingly to protect your position against any sudden pullback. Now we moved on to talk about the US tech, where we identified a buy opportunity at the beginning of the week after citing this reversal pattern following that impulsive move to the downside. So we saw the structure that looks like a double bottom structure, and we had a neckline right around the $10,850 level, which I told you that if we cite a breakout retest of that structure, we are going to be joining the rally to the upside, which happened. So we took advantage of this move right here, and then we saw another breakout of the $10,930 level, another good signal to add more position to this trade. Price came back to do a retest of structure, and we also had another position to this trade. And for those who took advantage of these opportunities, I told you to move your stop loss accordingly, and I cited somewhere below the $10,930 level to be an area to lock in some profit so that we don't lose out on whatever we have gained so far. Now, for those who missed out on these opportunities that we took advantage of since yesterday, we were able to identify the 11,000 area, which have been serving as a selling niche in the last 24 hours now. So we saw that area was a selling niche yesterday, and during the early hours of today, we saw this area too was serving as another selling niche at this point. So there is a likelihood that this could turn out to be a reversal pattern to push price to the downside. So that is why we are moving our stop loss to lock in some profit here so that we don't get caught in that move. However, if price breaks out of the $11,000 area, which also lines up with the trend line that we identified on the daily time frame, remember we had this trend line identified that if price breaks out of that trend line, we want to be looking to join that bullish momentum. So if we have a breakout of the $11,000 mark during the New York session today, I'm advising you to remain patient. Let's wait for the market to give us further confirmation in the form of a retest of structure, then we could join the rally to the upside. And for those who are already in this trade, it is an opportunity to add more position to the existing trade. Now we moved on to talk about the EURUSD, and on the EURUSD, I told you my position is already triggered here. I want to see how this is going to play out because price has been trading right below the $1 mark, and I shared with you how important that level has been in the last couple of months. So we said that if price continue to trade right below the $1 area, I want to continue to look for selling opportunities from this area. Now, so my other position triggered, we have our take profit targets sitting right around the 0.98500 area and the 0.98070 level, and this area also will be serving as a bullish momentum should price come into the structure. So if we see a situation where price comes here, we might be looking forward to a bullish momentum at this point. However, if price breaks out of the $1 mark, well, that's a sign that we have a bullish momentum, and if that breakout happen in such a way that price breaks out of the previous structure here where we had the selling pressure here, that is a very huge signal that the buyers have come to say. So I will be taking out of my position in a loss. That is if that happen, and then if a retest of structure happens, we want to be joining that rally to the upside. So this is how we want to be trading the EURUSD going into the New York session today. Then we went on to talk about the GBPUSD, where I told you I already took advantage of a selling opportunity right below the 1.14750 level, and I hope that this will continue to move to the downside. So what I said here is that if price breaks down that bullish trend line here, remember we had this bullish trend line figured out, which has been holding buying pressure since last week. We saw the same thing happen at the beginning of the week around here. So I said if price breaks down that structure, then that's a good sign that sellers have come to stay. And if a breakdown happens, price does a retest of structure followed by selling pressure on lower time frame, we want to add more position to our existing trade. However, if remember we are at a very good confluence here right below the 1.14750, which is where I want to be looking for selling opportunity, and right above that bullish trend line where a possible bullish momentum could happen. So what I'm saying here is if price continue in this such a way that we have buying pressure around this area, that we are sort of having consolidation phase, buying pressure, breakout retests, then we want to be joining the rally to the upside. So that is how we want to be trading the GBPUSD for today. So we went on to talk about the XAUUSD, which is the last pair we treated today, and we're already profitable in this trade. And I told you, for those who took advantage of this opportunity right below the $1,675 level, kindly move your stop loss to break even or lock in some profit, and let's see how this is going to play out. So for those who missed out on this opportunity here, what I said is that let's wait and see if the selling pressure in this market is still very strong, and the only way we can know if the selling pressure is still very strong is if price breaks down the $1,660 level, which has been holding buying pressure since the beginning of the week. So we can see how this level has been holding buying pressure. So we want to see this buy zone taken out by the sellers to give us a bearish signal. Then we take advantage of it after price comes back to do a retest of structure on our lower time frame. So that is how we want to trade this. Then from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakdown of a bullish trend line like this, we expect that at one point in time price might likely come back to do a retest of that structure. If that happens and followed by selling pressure right below the $1,675 level, we must have been taken out of our sell position here. But if that happens, we want to be joining the decline to the downside. I'm only going to buy the XAUUSD only and only if price breaks out of the $1,680 level, that very important key level that has been holding selling pressure in the last 2 months. So if price breaks out of that structure, a retest will be giving me a confirmation to join the rally to the upside. So that is that on the XAUUSD, and that is that on the pairs that we have been discussing so far for today. Thank you very much for being around. I really appreciate every single one of you around, and I wish you best of luck during the New York session today. So I hope I was able to simulate all the possible scenarios that is likely going to happen during the New York session today. So I hope that you will be on standby to be able to take advantage of this move when it finally happens. Remember, when we have a breakout of structure, we have a bearish or bullish signal like a breakout of a structure. Remember, don't get too excited. We don't want to get too excited. We want to remain patient and wait for the market to give us a second chance, a further confirmation in the form of a retest of that structure before we want to be joining the move to either the downside or the upside. Remember, if market does not give us that second chance, does not give us that leverage, does not give us that confirmation, well, let's pass that trade. There are quite a lot of opportunities in the financial market that we could take advantage of. So let's ensure that whenever we see a signal, let's wait for breakout. This is like a confirmation to make sure that we are entering a legitimate trade. So thank you very much for being around. I really appreciate you. So I look forward to seeing you same time tomorrow, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, same place, Extreme Speed Live app, and let's come here again to review what we have discussed so far, and let's plan again for the New York session tomorrow. Do have a wonderful day. Bye bye.